While leaders call for calm, Northern Ireland saw another night of clashes between rioting youth and police. Police deployed water cannons in a response to stones and fireworks.
On Thursday, police in Northern Ireland for the first time used water cannons amid ongoing violence. Clashes spread further into Irish nationalist areas as groups threw stones at police. Leaders of the UK, Ireland, as well as of Northern Ireland's power-sharing government appealed for calm. And the UK's Secretary of State for Northern Ireland held emergency talks in Belfast with political and community leaders.
I think it's right that we widely engage. It's that kind of engagement that meant that we had, as we come up to the anniversary this weekend, the Good Friday Agreement, because people were able to engage across community with people who wanted to move in a positive way away from violence.
The US government also expressed concerns. Meanwhile, the UK government's former top advisor in Northern Ireland told the Telegraph it's grossly irresponsible to blame Brexit for the violence. For Lord Kane, Brexit is a factor, but paramilitary groups and malign figures are using it as a cover for long simmering tensions. A week of violence has injured 55 police officers. Boys as young as 13 and 14 have been arrested on rioting charges. Thursday's confrontations were not as violent as the previous night. One community leader points to underlying issues.
Because a lot of these kids have been failed by the education system, etc. They don't see any prospects in terms of employability. So they're, hard. It's a difficult, complex issue.
Police say that in some instances, adults had stood applauding and shouting support, while youngsters committed crimes of violence.
China is stepping up its military activity near Taiwan. That's as Taiwan says it wouldn't back down in case of a war. And Washington expressed its full commitment to the democratic island.
China stepped up a show of force around Taiwan on Wednesday, sending more fighter jets into the island's self-defense zone. Taiwan's foreign minister responded by warning it would fight to the end in case of war. The democratic self-governed island, which China claims as its own, has complained of escalating military activity by Beijing in recent months. On Monday, China said an aircraft carrier group was exercising around the island, while the U.S. Navy said it had conducted a, quote, routine transit of the Taiwan Strait on Wednesday. U.S. State Department spokesman Ned Price on Wednesday described Washington's commitment to Taiwan as, quote, rock solid.
In support of longstanding U.S. policy, again, as reflected in the Taiwan Relations Act, the United States maintains the capacity to resist any resort to force or other forms of coercion that would jeopardize the security or the social or economic system of the people on Taiwan.
Washington is Taiwan's most important international backer and arms supplier, and it's been pushing Taipei to modernize its military and become a porcupine hard for China to attack. Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu said Taiwan was determined to improve its military capabilities and spend more on defense, and would run war simulations later this month.
Our defense ministry is very determined in defending ourselves. We are willing to defend ourselves, and it's without any question. And we will fight the war if we need to fight the war.
China, which claims its Taiwan activities are aimed at protecting Chinese sovereignty, did not respond to requests for comment on Wu's remarks.
China's most populous megacity is tightening up public control. In Shanghai, anyone who stays in the city for more than 24 hours must report to authorities. Experts believe Shanghai is being used as a pilot city, and that the measures may spread to other big cities in China. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more on the new rule that came into effect last week.
It covers all temporary visitors who come to the city for medical treatment, schooling, tourism, and business activities, plus any visiting relatives and friends of Shanghai citizens. But those entering the city on day trips under 24 hours don't have to report. Hotels and other accommodations must now register customers' personal data through a state-run website, following that customer's check-in. On Chinese social media platform Weibo, 160 million people read the announcement and related information. The new regulations have since triggered outcry and debate. After complaints started pouring in online, Shanghai authorities issued a follow-up message. It claimed there had been a misunderstanding and added that the registration is voluntary. But some netizens question why people will be fined if they don't register if it's voluntary.
In the US, Forbes' annual billionaire list is out, and it says former US President Donald Trump's net worth fell by over $1 billion during his presidency.
Former President Donald Trump's net worth shrank by nearly 1/3 over his 4 years in the White House. That's according to the Forbes annual billionaire list. The Forbes roundup of the world's richest individuals shows Trump with an estimated net worth of $2.4 billion in 2021. That's compared to about $3.5 billion in 2017, Trump's first year in office, or nearly 32% more than now. The data affirms Trump's numerous statements that his presidency wasn't making him richer. Trump is the only billionaire to have served as president of the United States. Over the past year, billionaires have multiplied at a striking rate, with a record 493 people joining the Forbes billionaires list since March of last year. That's a pace of around one new billionaire every 17 hours. Some famous faces that are newcomers to the billionaire list include celebrity Kim Kardashian and Apple CEO Tim Cook. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos tops the list with an estimated net worth of $177 billion, followed by Tesla CEO Elon Musk with $151 billion.
2 NASA astronauts spoke with a group of students gathered from around the world. The astronauts answered questions while floating 200 miles above the Earth.
Floating on board the International Space Station, NASA astronauts Shannon Walker and Kate Rubins took questions from the young minds of the Space Institute. The students were from Houston, Scotland, and Ecuador, and asked the astronauts what it's like to go to space.
My question for NASA is, how do you mentally and physically prepare for a long-term space mission?
You just need to be ready, and everybody prepares for that differently. Physically, you've got to be in shape to be able to do spacewalks, to be able to take the loads of launching and landing. And so we actually work with athletic trainers before we leave Earth to make sure we're in the best physical shape we can be before we get up here.
My question is, could a disease ever evolve in space, and could it reach the Earth?
But it's very unlikely that any new viruses would evolve up here because we don't have any other people besides the few that are up here, and we don't have any animals. And that's really how viruses evolve on Earth, and that's how they transmit on Earth.
They also asked them how the pandemic changed what the planet looked like from space. Rubin said she did notice some changes.
And we have noticed, if you look at things like commercial air travel, very early on, the number of flights going across, we can see the trails that the airplanes leave. That's reduced, and then some of the lights in the city are reduced because of the pandemic.
The 2 astronauts said they took part in the online event because they think it's incredibly important to get young people involved in space science.
A special event is welcoming performance art back to New York City. It's part of an initiative to revive culture and honor health workers.
Brass musicians from the New York Philharmonic kicked off a special music event in New York City this week. In honor of World Health Day, frontline healthcare workers were invited into Lincoln Center for a revival of the city's culture. Brass trombonist George Curran said the orchestra wanted to show their gratitude to the essential health workers.
It's been over a year, and everybody's been trying to do things online and small little things, but these opening stages are a chance for New York to start to get back to the rich, vibrant cultural life that it had pre-pandemic.
Curran hopes attendees feel loved and welcomed by the city as it tries to get back to normal. Henry Timms, president and CEO at Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts, said Restart Stages was conceived to take advantage of the facility's 16 acres of space.
We thought to ourselves, what can we do with this open space? How can we use the open space to start bringing the arts back? So Restart Stages is a project that launches today with a concert for vaccinated health workers, but over the months ahead it will bring the whole campus alive to create outdoor performance space to help New Yorkers enjoy the arts.
Restart Stages is an outdoor performing arts center with 10 outdoor performance and rehearsal spaces. The initiative is meant to reinvigorate the performing arts industry and New York City's rebound from the pandemic. Restart Stages will host performances from artists across the city's 5 boroughs. All performances will be outdoors, and pandemic safety measures will be in effect.
Now over to southeastern Europe, where Greece is pushing to attract a community of footloose remote workers. The country hopes to revive its economy and restore its international image after more than a decade of crisis.
Imagine working from home on a Greek island. Well, it's becoming a reality for a growing number of workers from across the globe, as Greece has become an unlikely hub for so-called digital nomads. Communications consultant Rowena Harding is one of them.
We can spend a lot more time in the outdoors here, like the quality of the air and the sea is really quite lovely. So the environment plays a really big part in how much you enjoy your day-to-day work.
From her garden on Aegina Island, Harding works with governments and charities across the globe. The push to attract a community of remote workers is among the green and digital reforms Greece hopes will revive its economy and restore its international image after more than a decade of crisis. Greece is also planning visas and offering a 50% income tax cut for 7 years for professionals who move there. 25-year-old Stefanos Bournias was born in Greece but raised in Bali. He moved from Amsterdam to Athens last year, working for a startup. He'd previously been put off by the lack of opportunities, working conditions and wages in Greece. And as a foreign resident, he waded through layers and layers of red tape on things like opening a bank account. Although he says there's a high quality of life, his future in Greece is uncertain.
Well, I don't know how long I'll stay in Greece. Right now it's working for me. I'm really enjoying being here and I'm looking forward to things opening up to actually start to get to meet people and set up my social life more, but I guess I'll probably be leaving at some point in time.
Last month, the government outlined a plan dubbed Greece 2.0, including investments in 5G to reinforce its attractiveness as a work location.
A restored 15th century masterpiece gains a new bulletproof glass housing in Belgium this week. That's after a turbulent life of being painted over, partly stolen, and at one point hidden by Nazis.
The beefed-up protection is part of a $35 million revamp for visitors. The Adoration of the Mystic Lamb is an altarpiece featuring 12 detailed panels. Completed in 1432 by brothers Jan and Hubert van Eyck. It's widely considered one of the most important pieces of early Renaissance art. The Belgian city of Ghent planned to host the Van Eyck last year, with the altarpiece fully returned to St. Bavo's Cathedral after more than a decade of restoration.
But I think the most important reason was the restoration campaign. And then it was really decided that we couldn't go on with a visitor experience like that because it didn't match the virtuosity of the Van Eyck brothers. There were often complaints about the display case, the lighting, etc.
But the pandemic pushed that into 2021. The panels were partially painted over in 1550 and later sawn in half in the 19th century. That was to separate the paintings on the double-sided panels. They were taken by invading French and German forces during different wars, ending up in an Austrian salt mine at the end of World War II. 2 panels were stolen in 1934, but only one was recovered.
That story of the stolen Just Judges panel appeals so much to people's imaginations. That panel was stolen in 1934, and people have been looking for it since.
The panel titled Just Judges is a 1945 replica.
That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Lees.